The marketplace of Zenera hummed with 1,000 voices, each one layered over the next in a symphony of commerce and chaos. Floating lanterns drifted overhead like lazy fireflies, their soft glow mixing with the harsh neon symbols that advertised exotic wares in a dozen alien scripts. Merchants hawked crystalline fruits that sang when touched, while street performers manipulated gravity itself to entertain passing crowds. But in a quiet corner, where the ancient stone fountain had long since stopped flowing, nobody looked twice. Lyra sat on the fountain's crumbling edge, her orange skin catching the amber light of the lanterns above. Her blonde hair fell in tangled waves around her face, carefully arranged to hide her shimmering teal eyes that marked her as one of the Solari, a species the local elites dismissed as unremarkable. In a city that worshipped power, prestige, and peculiarity, being ordinary was the greatest crime of all. She'd been sitting here for 67 days. She'd counted each one. The crowds flowed around her like water around a stone, never quite touching, never quite seeing. Wealthy merchants in their hovering carriages. Street urchins with quick fingers and quicker feet. Even the beggars knew better than to share space with someone as invisible as her. Lyris had stopped crying on day 12. Stopped hoping on day 34. By day 67, she'd perfected the art of becoming nothing, just another forgotten piece of Zenara's ancient architecture, weathered and overlooked. She didn't know why her family had left her here. She'd been told to wait by the fountain, that they'd return before the twin moons rose. But the moons had risen and set 67 times since then, and still she waited, because what else could she do? Where else could she go? The Solari had no temples here, no community centers, no safe havens for abandoned children. A shadow fell across her peripheral vision. Lyris didn't look up. Shadows passed constantly. This one would move along like all the others. But it didn't move. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. Then a figure knelt beside her, close enough that she could see worn boots and travel-stained clothes. A voice, warm and concerned, spoke in slightly accented galactic common. "Hey there. Are you all right?" Lyris's breath caught. Her teal eyes widened behind her curtain of blonde hair. Someone was talking to her. To her. Lyris's first instinct was to run. In 67 days, no one had spoken to her directly, not even to shoo her away. The voice was unfamiliar, carrying an accent she couldn't quite place, and that made it dangerous. Different meant unpredictable. But her legs wouldn't cooperate. They'd grown stiff from sitting, and fear had turned them to stone. "I'm not going to hurt you," the voice continued, gentle and patient. "My name's Marcus. I just arrived on Zenera yesterday, and I'm still figuring things out. But I noticed you've been sitting here alone for a while, and I thought maybe you could use some help." Slowly, Lyris lifted her gaze. Through the strands of blonde hair, she caught her first glimpse of the stranger who'd shattered her invisibility. He was human. She recognized the species from the educational holos she'd watched before her life had fallen apart. Humans were rare this far into the outer spiral, usually only passing through on their way to somewhere more important. This one had dark, kind eyes and a weathered face that suggested he'd seen enough of the universe to understand suffering when he encountered it. Marcus smiled softly, and that simple expression made something crack inside Lyris's chest. When was the last time anyone had smiled at her rather than through her? "What's your name?" he asked. Her voice came out as barely a whisper, rusty from disuse. "Lyris. That's a beautiful name." Marcus shifted his weight, still kneeling at her level rather than looming over her. "Lyris, how long have you been here?" She couldn't answer. The number felt too large, too shameful. Instead of pressing, Marcus did something that stopped her heart entirely. He reached out his hand, palm up, offering rather than demanding. "Would it be okay if I sat with you for a bit? My feet are killing me from walking around this market." Lyris stared at his outstretched hand. It was tanned from sun and scarred from work, completely ordinary by any measure. But to her, it might as well have been made of starlight. Her own hand trembled as she lifted it from her lap. Orange fingers hesitated above his palm, and she almost pulled back, almost retreated into her safe invisibility. Then she saw the warmth in his eyes, the genuine concern etched in the lines around them, and something awakened inside her. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. Her fingers touched his, and Marcus's hand gently closed around them. Marcus didn't let go immediately, and Lyris didn't pull away. For a long moment, they simply sat there, an abandoned Solari girl and a wandering human, connected by the simple act of holding hands while the marketplace swirled around them like a distant dream. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, "for trusting me enough to accept my hand." Trust. The word felt foreign to Lyris, like a language she'd once known but had forgotten how to speak. She studied Marcus's face, searching for the trick, the angle, the moment when he'd reveal this was all just elaborate cruelty. But his expression remained open, honest, patient. "Why did you stop?" she finally whispered. "Everyone else just walks past." Marcus settled beside her on the fountain's edge, releasing her hand but staying close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. In the cooling evening air of Zenera, that warmth felt like the first comfort she'd known in months. "I stopped because I saw you," he said simply. "Really saw you, not just looked past you like background scenery. And I saw someone who looked lost and alone, and I thought maybe I could help. That's all." "That's all?" Lyris echoed, and something bitter crept into her voice. "No one just helps here. Everyone wants something." "Then I suppose I'm not from here." Marcus pulled a ration bar from his jacket and broke it in half, offering her a piece. "I'm from a planet called Earth. Ever heard of it?" She shook her head, accepting the food with trembling fingers. It had been 2 days since she'd eaten, scrounging scraps from a discarded vendor's crate. "It's far from here, out in what you probably call the primitive sectors. We humans are still pretty new to this whole galactic community thing. Back home, we had a saying, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Simple, maybe naive, but it served me well enough." As Lyris ate, Marcus told her about Earth, about blue oceans and green forests, about cities made of glass and steel, about a species still learning its place among the stars. He spoke of his journey through the cosmos, working odd jobs on cargo ships and space stations, always moving, always searching for something he couldn't quite name. "What about you?" he asked gently. "What's your story, Lyris?" The question opened a floodgate. Words poured out of her, about the Solari homeworld she barely remembered, about coming to Zenera with her family seeking better opportunities, about being told to wait by the fountain while they handled important business. 3 hours passed as if they were minutes. The floating lanterns had shifted from amber to deep violet, signaling the approach of Zenara's brief twilight. Marcus listened to every word, never interrupting, never judging, and Lyris found herself revealing things she'd buried deep inside. "They said they'd be back before the moons rose," she continued, her voice barely steady. "But that was 67 days ago. I keep thinking maybe they got delayed, or arrested, or hurt, and they're trying to get back to me. But sometimes I think..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Sometimes you think they're not coming back," Marcus said gently. Lyris nodded, blonde hair falling across her orange-skinned face. Behind it, her teal eyes glistened with unshed tears. "The Solari aren't wanted here. We're too ordinary. Too forgettable. Maybe they realized I was holding them back, and they..." "Stop." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "Whatever happened, it wasn't because you weren't good enough. You understand me? Sometimes people make terrible choices, but that doesn't mean you deserve to be left behind." "How can you know that?" "You just met me. Because I've seen enough of the universe to recognize when something's wrong." Marcus stood, offering his hand again. "Lyris, I know we just met, but I'd like to help you figure out what really happened. If your family was planning to come back, there would be records, arrival manifests, residential permits, something. And if they're not coming back, well, you deserve to know that too. Lyra stared at his offered hand, her mind racing. For 67 days, she'd sat alone, paralyzed by fear and abandonment. The thought of actively searching for answers terrified her. What if the truth was worse than the uncertainty? But Marcus's presence had awakened something in her. Hope, yes, but also anger. A quiet, burning need to understand why she'd been left to slowly fade away beside a broken fountain. She took his hand and stood on shaky legs. Over the next week, Marcus became her advocate, her investigator, her friend. He navigated Zanara's labyrinthine bureaucracy with the stubborn determination of someone who refused to accept no as an answer. Together, they visited housing registries, migration offices, and even the seedy information brokers who operated in the market's shadowy corners. Piece by piece, the truth emerged. Lyra's family had boarded a transport ship bound for the Andrus colonies the very day they'd left her. They'd sold everything, paid for passage, and started a new life. The truth hit Lyra like a physical blow. She stood in Marcus's rented room above a noodle shop, staring at the confirmed passenger manifest on his data tablet, and felt the last fragile thread of hope snap. They'd left her on purpose. Not because of an emergency. Not because of circumstances beyond their control. They'd simply decided she was expendable. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly, standing beside her. "I wish I had better news." Lyra expected to cry. Expected to collapse, to rage, to shatter completely. Instead, she felt a strange, cold clarity wash over her. For 67 days, she'd blamed herself, convinced that if she'd been better, smarter, more special, they would have come back. Now she understood the truth. Their cruelty had nothing to do with her worth. "Thank you," she whispered. "For helping me know." "I did some additional digging," Marcus continued carefully. "The Solari have a community on a station about 3 jumps from here, a real community, with support systems for their people. I contacted them, and they're willing to take you in, help you start over. A week ago, that offer would have been everything. But now, looking at Marcus, this strange, kind human who'd seen her when she was invisible, who'd held her hand when she was alone, who'd fought through bureaucracy and red tape just to give her answers, Lyra realized something profound. "What about you?" she asked. "Where are you going next?" Marcus smiled softly. "I don't know yet. I've been drifting for a long time, looking for a reason to stop." Lyra's teal eyes met his, and she felt something warm bloom in her chest. Something that felt like courage. Like possibility. Like the beginning of a story rather than the end. "I've been invisible for so long," she said quietly, "that I forgot I could choose to be seen. You showed me that. You didn't just give me back my voice, you listened when I used it." She reached out and took his hand, no hesitation this time. "I don't want to say goodbye to you, Marcus. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Marcus's eyes widened slightly, then softened with understanding. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying I've spent 67 days waiting for people who didn't care. I don't want to spend one more day apart from someone who does." Lyra squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth flow between them. "Wherever you're going next, can I come with you?" Marcus pulled her into a gentle embrace, and Lyra let herself sink into it, the first real comfort she'd known in months. "I'd like that," he murmured. "I'd like that very much." They left Zanara 3 days later, 2 wanderers who'd found in each other what they'd been missing. The broken fountain remained behind, still dry, still forgotten. But the girl who'd sat beside it for 67 days was forgotten no more. She was seen. She was valued. She was loved. And she was finally going home, not to a place, but to the hand that would hold hers through whatever adventures lay ahead. The end.